Mason families, we are excited to welcome everyone back to Return to Learn next week. So whether you're in person or online, we are excited to welcome you back. Our staff have actually been in the last week and a half preparing diligently for our students to return to school, and our online staff have been planning and preparing their online environment for our students to return to learn next week. You know, this year we are truly in this together. We are partnering with our families in order to keep our schools open so that students can return to our building safely and successfully. There are ways that we can do that together, very practical steps. Number one is always doing a daily symptom check, making sure that your child does not have a fever before they come to school, making sure the other common symptoms are not present in your child. So as you're thinking about, do I send my child back to school when they feel a little bit ill? The answer is please practice an abundance of caution. And I'll give you a practical example of what that looks like in the Cooper home. We know our kids just like you know your own kids. They have seasonal allergies, they have all kinds of things that come up. We would ask you to monitor those closely. If you know your child has an allergy, for example, please make sure you're communicating that with your school. So as they come in with a runny nose or a cough, and that's a normal pattern in your child's life every year, we want to make sure that we're sensitive to that as well. But it's also a good chance for us to practice that abundance of caution. So you may even take a day to observe those symptoms to make sure they really are symptoms from allergies this year, to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe at school. If you have a family member who is displaying COVID-19 symptoms and you think there's a good chance they may have a positive case of COVID-19, it will be important that you keep all of your children home during that time to make sure that we don't continue to spread COVID-19 in our schools, because there's close contact, and close contact means that your child has been in close contact with a positive case for more than 15 minutes. And obviously if you're living together in your home, that would definitely meet the definition of a close contact to a positive case of COVID-19. You know, our state actually does have a policy overall that gives us guidance on what it means to travel in and out of the United States and other states. So for example, the guidance states that if you are traveling outside of our country, or you're traveling to a state that has a positivity rate of 15% or higher, they're asking you to quarantine for 14 days to make sure that we stop and slow down the spread of COVID-19. So here's a scenario. We receive a phone call from a family, a great Comet family, who said, you know, my child woke up today not feeling well, so I kept them home, took them to our doctor, they had a test taken, they stayed home for a couple days, got the results, called us and said, we have a positive case in our family. Once we receive that firsthand account, it's important it's a firsthand account, it's not rumors out there that people are hearing about, it's a firsthand account from the family, then we go through a whole process. The first step is that we enter that data into our data system. So for example, if a teacher receives information, they reach out to their supervisor, their building principal, the nurse, they add it into our data system. Then what we do is we go and contact the Warren County Health Department, and I'm talking to them right away about the contact tracing process. And that contact tracing process starts. And what that does is it leads us to a communication process, and we know who we need to communicate with. So for example, as we're going through the contact tracing, if we discover that your child had close contact, which means they were in close contact with someone that has a positive case within 6 feet of them for more than 15 minutes, then we would contact you personally. If your student is in that classroom, you would receive a letter or an email from the building principal letting you know that there was a positive case in the classroom. We will also, as a district, give out a weekly update to all of our families, letting them know where if we have positive cases and where that number is, so that everyone can be monitoring that with us. So that's the process that we would go through if we have a positive case. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about what it looks like if you are called by your building principal and you had that close contact. When we have students that are in close contact with a positive case, and I want to stop again and remind us that this is going to happen. And so I want us to all think about this in your own personal life. What do you need to do in preparation to be ready for this? So for example, making sure you have open communication with your employer to let them know that this is the school's process, that when a student is in close contact with a positive case, we will follow the guidance from the Warren County Health Department, and that student will be placed in quarantine. Quarantine means that they have 14 days that they are not to return to school. That 14 days will be disruptive to your normal routines, and we understand that. But that is the way that the process is set up to slow down the spread of COVID-19. Now, during that time, we actually have a whole process in place to keep your child connected, and we call it the Quarantine Connector. We have a camera that is ready in all of our classrooms to keep your child connected throughout the day so that they can connect with the teacher, connect with students, and so they can work remotely from home during that time to make sure that our students don't miss a beat. Because oftentimes when you're in quarantine, you don't have symptoms, you feel fine, but you've just been exposed, that positive exposure. And so that's why, as we're talking with our kids, reminding them, whether you call it airplane arms or whatever you call that, to keep their distance. I know that the Lieutenant Governor gave just a really catchy, reminder that it's the BMWs that we need to remember. It's the back up, we need to mask up, we need to wash up, and then sanitize the area around us. Remembering those things and keeping your kids remembering that will help us to stay in school. If your family has selected to learn at home, I would encourage you, first of all, to make sure you've had that conversation with your child. Make sure they understand that this was a family decision that was best for your family. So they understand that when they see kids going to in-person learning, they understand that every family makes a personal decision, and that's okay, and that's great. As you're setting up your successful environment at home, think about the environment. Is it a quiet environment? Does your student need to have a desk? What kind of structure does your child need to have? Those are great conversations to have this week as you're setting up and getting ready to get into that regular rhythm and routine. Routines are important. The other thing I would encourage you to do is think about a daily schedule. Those daily schedules are important for kids. When they're here in their normal routine, we have schedules that have breaks built in. So what do those breaks look like at home? Do you have time to walk outside, time to take brain breaks? Those are important for all of our kids. The other reminder is making sure all of your materials are ready. They're organized, that they all work. So if you're logging in online, making sure all your passwords work, doing that ahead of time in preparation to set your child up for success to learn online. And then finally, just stay connected. Stay connected to the teacher, stay connected to our school, our newsletters, so that you know what's happening and that you're sharing that with your child as well. There are several ways to stay connected as a family if you have chosen to be an online student this year. Staying connected means just watching newsletters, watching the communication coming from your school so you know what the happenings are in the school. The other piece is keeping those lines of communication open with the teacher or the coach or instructor that you're working with. And oftentimes people don't realize this, but if you're an online student, you also are welcome to participate in our extracurricular activities, whether they're sports or clubs that we have going on. Another way to stay connected is lean into your network. There are other families that are doing this as well all around you. So finding those networks and then finding neat ideas of how they're doing that in their home and sharing those ideas with each other. So staying connected to people is key for your child to stay connected with our schools as well. I'm so excited to share with you this Saturday from 4 to 8, the Mason Schools Foundation has organized all the food trucks in the area to be placed strategically all around our community so that you can practice social distancing, but you can stay socially connected with your neighborhood. And as you purchase your food from the food truck that you would like to enjoy your meal, and it's from 4 to 8, you can actually give a donation to the Mason Schools Foundation. Not only does your food go towards that, and there's a portion of that that goes towards the school foundation, there's also an opportunity for you to give at that food truck. So enjoy that, connect with your neighborhood, come together, but do that safely. There's all kinds of opportunities to celebrate, and you probably have some of those traditions in your family celebrating the beginning of the school year. Well, one thing we would like to ask you all to do to keep us connected and celebrating as a community is to share pictures from day one, whether you're sharing pictures from your virtual online classroom or you're sharing pictures in preparation to go to your in-person classroom. We know that these pictures are just cherished in our community. So as you do that, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, make sure you use a hashtag that connects us. Hashtag come together, and spell Comet with capital letters. So come together has that clever Comet together. So come together. And also hashtag MCS Day 1. We would love to see that trend all over the place on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So please share your pictures and celebrate with us together.